Mr. Medellin here again, Mr. M, and this time we have a lengthy multiple exposure factor problem that we're going to go over. So I wrote it on the board here, and I kind of took it down off the sheet that we have, but it says, an image is obtained utilizing the following exposure factors: 100 mA, 0.025 second, 70 kV, 36-inch SID, and no grid. It says, due to a situation, a 50-inch SID must be used and with an 8:1 grid. In order to maintain the same exposure to the IR, the mass should be adjusted too. So obviously we have to figure out a new mass, correct? But it's very similar to some of the exposure factor problems that we've done, but this time they put it in a sentence. So don't let it intimidate you guys. Don't let these words beat you up, right? We're gonna go ahead and pick out of these words here, we're going to pick what we need, okay? So I'm going to write it down, and we're going to create two columns, just like we did for the exposure factors that we were trying to figure out in the previous videos. So we have 100 mA. We're going to create two columns here, you guys. We got our time, 0.025 seconds. We have here 70 kV. We have here 36-inch SID. All right, and then we have here no grid. Okay, so that's the first column that we're going to have. The second column is, it says, due to a situation, a 50-inch SID must be used. So now, over here on this side, I'm going to put here, there's a 50-inch SID. So look here, we got a change of distance, right? And then it says here, with an 8:1 grid. So now we go from no grid to an 8:1 grid. And what we're trying to do is figure out a new mass, right? So notice there's no kV changes. There's no kV from 70 to 80 or 70 to 60. So I'm going to cross that out. So there's no 15% rule that we have to worry about. All right, we don't have to worry about anything, right? But we don't have to do it, okay? So we are going to go ahead and calculate the mass first. So number one, we're going to calculate the mass. So we got 100 mA. All right, so now that we got our factors chosen, we're going to do 100 mA, 100 mA times 0.025 equals 2.5 mass. All right, is that what you guys got? 2.5? Okay, so we got 2.5 mass. Excuse me. So now we're going to go ahead and take a look at a 36-inch SID to 50-inch SID. So what math are we going to have to do here? There's a change of distance, so we're going to have to get a new mass, right? So what math problem is that going to be? Exposure maintenance, right? Direct square law, mass distance formula, correct? So now we're going to use 2.5 mass. I'm going to write out the formula again. So repetition is key. Mass 1 over mass 2 equals d1 squared over d2 squared, correct? So now we're going to plug in our numbers. So we got mass 1 is 2.5. And we got your mass 2, we don't know what it's going to be. It's going to be x. We got d1 squared. What's d1 squared? What's it going to be? It's on our first column, so it's going to be 36 squared, correct? That's d1. And d2 squared, that's the new distance, all right, is going to be 50 inches. So doesn't it make it better when you made it into columns? Now you recognize it, right? But you had to pull them down into these columns. But when you looked at it as a sentence, it's like, oh my God, what is that, right? But we're going to pick and choose what we need, right? So now we got 50-inch SID, and that's going to be squared. Okay, so 36 times 36, we know is 1296, right? So I'm going to do 1296. And then we got 50 times 50, that's going to be 2,500, right? 2,500. Okay, so let me make it more like 5. I write so fast. All right, so now we're going to cross multiply. We're going to cross multiply. So 2,500 times, oh, you know what? Let's do 1296 times x. That's an easier one. And then we got 2,500 times 2.5 times 2.5 is 6,250. So now we have here divided by, we're going to divide by 1296, right? So divided by 1296, and we get 4.8. Is that what you guys got so far? Okay. So we got a new mass of 4.8. I'm gonna put a circle around it so I don't get lost in all the mess there. So our new mass is 4.8, okay? So I'm gonna switch to a second page here, but I'm gonna take a picture so I can have a reference of the numbers that I'm using, all right? So I'm gonna write this down. We got here 36 inches to 50 inches, and we have no grid to an 8:1 grid. We have a new mass. We have a new mass of 4.8 that we just calculated, correct? All right, so we did the direct square law, so I'm gonna cross that out. So now we're going from no grid to an 8:1 grid. So no grid is tabletop, right? Or just no grid. And now you're going from tabletop to an 8:1 grid. So anytime you go from no grid to a grid, you have to decrease the mass or increase the mass. You're going from no device to a device. You're gonna have to increase the mass. That's right, because now you gotta go through the grid material, correct? So we gotta know by how much, right? So this is where we gotta go back to the grid conversion factors. So again, I'm gonna list them, right? So I'm gonna create grid ratio here, and I'm gonna put grid conversion factor, and I'm always gonna start with 8:1. 8:1 is gonna be 4, 6:1, I'm just gonna write them all down, what the heck, right? So 5:1 is gonna be 2, right? 10, 12:1 is gonna be 5, and then 16:1 is gonna be 6, right? I know we don't need all of them, but maybe I'll need them for another question down the line. I don't wanna have to write it again, I'm not gonna lie. So, 8:1, what's the grid conversion factor? It's gonna be 4, correct? So, if you go from no grid to a grid, well then, you're gonna have to go ahead and take your mass and multiply it by your grid conversion factor to get your new mass. Okay. So what's the original mass that we're working with now? 4.8. So I'm going to put that right here, 4.8 mass. All right, and then times the grid conversion factor, and it's 4. So now, if we do, let's go. Oops, I had it here, right? 4.8 times 4, it's 19.2, right? So the new mass is 19.2 mass. And I'm gonna be honest with you guys, we probably round it to 20, because none of our digital x-ray systems or our consoles are gonna get to 19 mass. We'll probably just round it to 20. And the answer on the test might be 20 mass, right? We're probably gonna round up. But anyways, the new mass is 20. So let's go back to the original one here, guys. So your new mass, after doing all of this stuff, you guys, is gonna be 19 mass. That's gonna be our answer. All right, so that's gonna be the answer. It's gonna be 19 mass. So you're going from 2.5 mass to 19 mass, and that's gonna be your answer. So again, it looks intimidating, but if you just pick and choose and create the columns, your original set of factors and your new set of factors, then you can figure out what math we have to do. All right, so I'm hoping this will help you. If you have any questions, just let me know, okay? All right, thank you.